Welcome to Betting Weekly WTA, the women's tennis betting podcast, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. I'm Rory Jiwani. With me is Nigel Seeley. It's almost the midway point of the WTA 500 event in Seoul, the Korean Open. We're going to look at some match bets. Now, this tournament has been interrupted by the weather so far, so they've only just started the second round. They've only just completed the first round earlier today. Before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favourite podcast provider, and follow us on social media. The handle is @BecauseWeWin. And if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for our newsletter. You can get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. Nigel, I'm pleased to say that both our outright picks are still standing in Seoul. We had a bit of a scare yesterday. Shnaider came from a set down to beat Katie McNally. They had to finish that today because of the rain, finally converting a fifth match point. And Suzan Lamens made quite light work of Tatiana Maria in the end. Early on, that looked like that might be a bit of an epic. But now Shnaider and Lamens meet in round two. So we're going to get someone through to the quarterfinals, Nigel.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Rory. It's great to be here for our first show on the match bets on the WTA Tour. We obviously done match bets on the majors. This is the first time we've ventured outside the majors. Desperate times call for desperate measures, I would say. But anyway, if you have followed the show, you do know the only positive I would take from what's been a very disappointing season is that we have won money on the matches. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can continue that. Obviously, if you saw the European show yesterday on Betting Weekly Live, you will see that I wore the yellow jacket to coincide with the great event of the Champions League. And now you can see I'm wearing the Bet Rivers colours here to go with the graphics and my football behind to celebrate our first WTA show today. Well, the Seeley fireworks went off this morning when Deanna Shnaider got through and Lamens went through. We guaranteed a quarter-finalist. So, unfortunately, the bookies do not pay half the odds the first 8, so we still got a couple of rounds to go before we get a winning. But we will have someone in the quarterfinals, and Shnaider v Lamens is one of the reasons I bet them Lamens was because I thought that we would potentially have this opportunity, this matchup in the last 16, and I thought there was an opportunity for Lamens to beat Shnaider. And on what I saw this morning, I would probably agree with that assumption a little bit even more so than I did at the start of the tournament.
Let's have a look at that match first up. The odds, Deanna Shnaider -225, Suzan Lamens +175. Spread 3.5 games, totals 20.5. These odds just off the press. As I said, we've had a few rain delays. Now, Shnaider won their only previous meeting. That was in Hong Kong last year in 3 sets. And the Russian went on to win the title. So I'm hoping that's a lucky omen for us. Shnaider, she did win the Monterrey title just before the US Open, but then fell to Laura Siegemund at the first hurdle in New York. We last saw Lamens. Obviously, she beat, we talked about Shnaider winning against Katie McNally and Lamens beating Tatiana Maria. Before that, we saw Lamens giving Iga Swiatek a scare at the US Open. And this is an important time of the year for the Dutch woman because she won the 250 in Osaka almost 12 months ago. So, Nigel, you think Lamens might have a shot here?
I certainly do. The first thing you've got to say before tomorrow is the weather's looking good. So we should have a full day of tennis tomorrow over in Seoul. So that's good. The weather is pleasant, around about 25 degrees, 26 degrees, sun and a bit cloudy intervals, but mainly sunny throughout the day. So that's good. The court conditions this week, we touched on the previous show, have been pretty slow. And I think on the first round, that's backed that up a little bit. It is a little bit slower than usual. Slow to medium, I would say, not quick. So that is things to factor in here as well. We do not know the order of play as of yet, but we do know this match starts tomorrow and the matches start the early hours of the morning on Thursday. So when you watch this show, if you want to bet anything we have, you've got to head across to the Bet Rivers website or the app pretty early to get these lines. Now, I quite like Lamens. I watched Lamens play Iga Swiatek at the US Open. She took a set off her and really give her a test. I mean, the final set score flattered Iga Swiatek, and Lamens was a takeout from the tournament, I thought. prior to that tournament, she didn't show any kind of form. I mean, she was beaten in the first round of Cleveland. She beat in the first round of Cincinnati. She got to the third round of Montreal, but she beat Haddad Maia on the way there and could have met her. But I thought I thought her game, and I think she would have taken a lot of confidence from that match against Swiatek as well. I thought this would be a little bit closer on the betting compared to what it is on the back of Shnaider's performance. Shnaider didn't play very well against Katie McNally. She was really poor in the first set. She squandered 4 match points before she took one, but that was on the McNally serve. She broke her. I wouldn't have fancied her to serve her out. She looked tight. She looked nervous. And judging by what I saw in the first round match here, I think Lamens is a big price here at plus 175. I also think the plus 3.5 on Lamens is a really nice price because Shnaider has so many meltdowns in a match. I mean, she virtually goes through every single match where she's losing a set. She doesn't do anything easy. The last time they met, she won the first set 6-love, Shnaider, and then she lost the tiebreak in the second set and then recovered herself to win 6-2. That is the kind of player she is here. Also brings in the total games. I think total games are quite cheap at 20.5. And for the reasons why I've got money on both of these to win the tournament, I'm not going to play the win market. I'm not going to play the spread market. But if anybody hasn't already got involved in Lamens to win the tournament or Shnaider to win the tournament, the plus 175 and the plus 3.5, I would recommend. But purely and simply as a neutral and thinking that these odds are a little bit tighter than what they currently are, I expect money to come for Lamens. I think it'll be closer than this. I like the over total at 20.5. Over 20.5 is minus 110 with Bet Rivers. The previous time they met, there was 27 games in that match in their only previous meeting. So I think Lamens is playing a lot better than she was then. As you say, it's an important time of the year. Shnaider gives opponents so many opportunities. So I'm going to have 1 point on over 20.5 games in this match. I do like the dog. I do like her on the handicap, but we're holding big price vouchers, 20-1 and 150-1 on these two players. So there's no point in me getting involved, but I do think this one could go to a third set. So over 20.5 games, minus 110 is my first official play for tomorrow in Seoul.
So there you have it. Yeah, I agree. Shnaider, she's not doing things easy at the moment, and especially in these slower conditions. I think it does. I mean, she's not bad in slower conditions. She did win a clay tournament in Budapest last year, but I think she would prefer it quicker. I think Lamens might actually prefer it quicker as well, but I think of the two, Shnaider perhaps more likely to make errors on this pace of court. We move on to our second match, Katerina Siniakova against Daria Kasatkina. Siniakova plus 108, Kasatkina minus 136. The spread is 1.5 games, totals 21.5. I guess the standout statistic here is that they've met 7 times before, and Kasatkina leads the head-to-head 6-1. Most recently, they met at the French Open, and she won in 3 sets. Siniakova beat 2 Australians in qualification, Astra Sharma and Talia Gibson in straight sets. She then beat the local wildcard, Park So-hyun, without too much fuss. Kasatkina, I mean, she hasn't had a good year. What do you reckon to this one? I think this one could be a paradise for if you're trading in play, because I think this one might have swings and roundabouts aplenty.
Definitely. The only reason Kasatkina is minus 136 for this match is because of that 6-1 head-to-head record. That is the only reason why she is that kind of price here. She has a good record in this tournament. She's a former finalist. I think she won it. Did she win it? I think she won it. I think she got to the final. But I think she
definitely got to the final. Yeah.
But she's got a good record here. But she hasn't had a good season. And she was a fade for me on the outright market. And she's slipping down the world ranking. So it's an important tournament for her. She's 12-1 this year. 12-11 this year on hard courts compared to Siniakova, who's 17-8. And Siniakova on current form is much the better player. Obviously, Siniakova did really well at Wimbledon to almost beat Sabalenka. She won the tournament in Warsaw in the WTA event there. She come through qualification here without dropping a set. She beat Park without dropping a set. So you would say that Siniakova is, on this moment in time, is playing the better tennis. There's a couple of interesting subplots here of this match. If you look at their head-to-head record, the last 4 matches they played have all gone to 3 sets. And I think the relevance of the last 3 matches is because one of them was this year in the French Open. The other one was in 2024, and the other one was 2022. Prior to that, their matches were 2017, 18, 19, 20, which I don't think really is much relevance. But those three are all relevant. And all of them were pretty identical in the way they went. First set 6-1, second set 6-3, third set 6-2. That was exactly what happened in the last two matches they played. The last three matches they played, all the total games have been 24. So it's a common number here. And in the 7 matches that these two have played, the opening set in every single match has cashed on under 8.5 games. So it's been 6-1, 6-2, or 6-love. No set has gone over 8.5 games. So if you want to look at that trend, I'm going to sort of contradict myself here, not for the first time, but under 8.5 games is plus 175, which I think may be worth a little bet. But I also like the over 21.5 games here. I think it's going to be a 3-setter either way. So I think you want to look at over 2.5 sets, potentially at plus 138. I think that would be a better way than betting the over 21.5, because I do think the sets will be won quite easy. Totally agree with you in terms of the way that the match will go. I think it will fluctuate from one favourite to the other favourite. I think if you wanted to bet both players at, say, plus 150 in play for $100 or $50, whatever, I think you'll get matched. I think you'll get that price hit. So I think there'll be an sort of end-to-end match. But the history of these matches are very, very rarely does anybody win a set by more than 9 games. If you look at their record, in those 7 matches, there's only been 2 sets that have gone to 10 games. Never more than 10. So that is 3, 6, 9 to 21, 20, so 3, 6, 9, 11, 14. That's 19 sets. 19 sets of tennis, and only 2 sets have been over 9.5 games. So there's going to be lots of breaks, lots of fluctuations. The total games might be a little bit dangerous when you think they're low-scoring sets, but I think over 2.5 sets at plus 138 will be my angle in here.
Yeah, no, I like that over sets bet. Is that an official play, Nigel?
Go on in at the price plus 138. Yeah. We'll go with Siniakova over 2.5 sets at plus 138.
Okay, so there we go. Yeah, agree with that one. I think this one could go on for a while. It's going to be topsy-turvy, that one. Let's move on. Third match, Iga Swiatek against Sorana Cirstea. Swiatek minus $12, Cirstea plus 650. Spread 6.5 games, totals 17.5. I thought it might be a bit closer than this. Cirstea won the 250 in Cleveland just before the US Open. She fell to Karolina Muchova in 3 sets in New York. In round 1 here, she wasted little time dispatching Anastasia Zakharova. And I think I said when we were looking forward to this tournament as a whole, that maybe Swiatek's game is better suited to quicker conditions these days. See, Cirstea's already got a match under her belt. Swiatek has won all 5 previous meetings, the last 4 in straight sets. But could the Romanian give her a bit of trouble here?
I think possibly. This is Cirstea playing in probably her best form of the season. You know, forget the defeat against Muchova. She played well in that defeat against Muchova, but it was that sort of tournament. You know, we've mentioned it a lot of times in these shows and on the ATP tour. Players who win tournaments before majors usually crash out early in majors, and that was the case for Cirstea. But look at the manner of her performance in Cleveland. She didn't drop a set, and she come through qualification. So she won 8 matches to get to win that event, and did not drop a set. Now it wasn't like an easy route for her. She had Samsonova, Lee, Teichmann, who's a dangerous opponent. There were some decent opponents there at that kind of level, and she was excellent. A lot of people have spoken about her to do well at the US Open. I think she was probably a little bit exhausted in going into the final set against Muchova. She didn't have the legs, but she's bounced back with another win over Zakharova, the girl that she beat in the semi-finals already here in Seoul. She's had the advantage, unlike Swiatek, of playing on the court, which is an advantage. But is that enough to bet Sorana Cirstea at plus 650 to beat Iga Swiatek? Possibly not for me. The handicap is interesting. The spread at 6.5 is interesting. The total at 17.5 is interesting, but the overline is minus 133. And when you look at the 5 matches that these two have played, the last time they played was in Cincinnati this year. The total there come in at 17.
And if you look at the average total in the 5 matches that these two have played, it's an average of 18.8. So you could argue that the line on their form and their head-to-head for each other should be a little bit one higher. But that is why she's minus 133 on the over and it's evens on the under. You know, it's factored in that most people would look at that average line. So for me, honestly, in this match, it's a no bet. I know you might have an angle in, but I'm not gonna play. There's a lot of questions. You know, Iga Swiatek's motivation for this tournament may be questionable. Sorana Cirstea played an awful lot of tennis at the end of her career. I think she can make it competitive, but to bet minus 133 on over 17.5, it's a little bit too short. If it was minus 110, I may have a bet, but I would be leaning towards the over again here on the totals rather than betting on anything on the money line.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of possible angles here. One would be the spread, Cirstea on the spread. I think 6.5 games is possibly a bit generous. I suppose the other angle, and maybe this is Tim's influence rubbing off on me, would be sort of go overs games in the first set, just because Cirstea has more experience of the surface. You know, she's played that match, she's got the match under her belt, whereas Swiatek hasn't. But I think I quite like the spread at minus 105, 6.5 games. So you're looking at, 6-3, 6-3. I think she'll manage that.
Well, that brings in the over games as well, 6-3, 6-3. So but you're getting minus 133 rather than minus 125. So it's a similar kind of price. If you look at the 5 matches they played, she's covered 6.5. She's, Iga Swiatek's only won by more than 6.5 on 3 of those 5 matches. And the most recent one she didn't. It was a 5 handicap. So, and Kirstea's playing well. She's playing a lot better than what she did when the last time they met. So that could potentially be a way to go. Yeah,
I'm going to have a point on Cirstea plus 6.5 games at minus 105. I think she's playing well. She might, catch Swiatek out early because she's a bit more used to the surface. I think Swiatek will win, obviously, even if, as I say, I think her game's better suited to quicker conditions. But these days, I think Cirstea should cover that spread and give the world number 2 a little bit to think about. So that's Swiatek Cirstea. One more match to look at, and it's Lois Boisson, the French woman who had a great run at Roland Garros to the semi-finals. She's up against Ekaterina Alexandrova, the 2nd seed and the 2nd favourite in the outright market. Boisson plus 325, Alexandrova minus 455. The spread is 4.5 games, totals 20.5. Now, we've talked about these courts playing slow, and we know Boisson is a clay court specialist. She hasn't really shown anything outside of clay, but in round 1, she did beat local wildcard Ku Yeon-woo 6-2, 6-1. That said, Ku is ranked outside the top 300. We last saw Alexandrova at the US Open. She was well beaten by Iga Swiatek in the last 16. What do you think here, Nigel? I mean, I was saying this to Tim on the show the other day on the Betting Weekly Tennis Live. You see someone like, for instance, Sara Sorribes Tormo, who's a clay court clay dog, but she has won tournaments on hard court, when it's slow. And, Boisson, I'm kind of just a bit kind of wary that, it might just click for her on hard court at some point. I'm not sure it will be here, but I just get the feeling that if it's quite slow like it is, she might not fare too badly.
Yeah, I looked at the odds and my first reaction was trying to find a way to oppose Alexandrova. I'm not quite sure whether it's going to be quick enough for her, but from what I've seen, but Alexandrova is suddenly becoming a top-class women's player. She's on the verge of making the top 10 for the first time in her career. She's on the verge of having a breakthrough, I believe, in the majors. She'll be ultra consistent. She gets to the last 16 of every single one, pretty much. She got beat by Raducanu, I think, in the first round at the Australian Open, but prior to that, last 16, she's doing what her seeding's done. But what a sign of a good player is that she never gets beat, usually by people that, she shouldn't get beat by. What I mean by that, she got beat by Iga Swiatek at the US Open. She got beat in the final by Shnaider, which, she doesn't get beat as a minus 455 dog. That's what I'm trying to say. And she's a
but my minus 455 favourite. She's a minus 455 favourite here today. So she usually beats these kind of opponents. Is when she goes up a level that she gets found out a little bit here. I think it's all about Boisson, obviously. I mean, I think her record away from clay this year and in her career is so bad that can we see her beating the number 2 seed here, and can we see her making a run to this tournament? I think this is an opportunity for her to be competitive, but I can't see her having enough tools to beat Alexandrova on a hard court at this moment in time. You know, I just think that she's so heavily reliant on clay. Her performances on clay are so different than what we've seen this year. And if we look at Alexandrova's form this year, in hard, it's good, 13-11, outdoors 4-0, hasn't lost a match indoors, 4-0. Grass 8-3, clay 13-15. She's had a really good year, 38-19 on the year so far on all surfaces. And I just don't see her getting beaten this match. However much I try to find angles, you know, potentially totals, Boisson totals, that spread 4.5. But I just think Alexandrova was very confident in the moment. And when she's a heavy favourite like this, she very, very, very rarely gets beat. I'm looking through her losses here. And, you know, she did get beat in Montreal when she was a minus 700 favourite. But, and also against Bondar in Hamburg. But other than that, not usually. So 2 defeats out of probably about 20 odd games, 25 games where she's been around this price in the betting. So I'm not going to have a bet. I probably would lean towards Boisson potentially, or the overs on the spread. I just don't think she'll win it. I think Alexandrova will get through here. But she's a favourite for the whole tournament, Alexandrova. I mean, she has more difficult games coming up. I don't think she's any value at the odds with Bet Rivers to win the tournament, because I think it will be too slow. But Bosson's form away from clay is so poor that it's very hard for me to make a case for her.
Yeah, couldn't disagree with that assessment. So, Nigel, let's recap our bets for it's still second round in Seoul. What was
we just got the odds through on the Raducanu Krejcikova match, which is probably the most interesting match of the day actually tomorrow. We haven't got a graphic on it, but they're just coming through. If you look at there, you'll see on the website that they're coming through as we speak in now.
Yeah, I've got Krejcikova plus 150, Raducanu minus 188. So the spread would be 3.5 games, totals 20.5. Surprisingly, these two haven't actually met, Krejcikova and Raducanu, before. But Krejcikova looked very good in the first round against Tatiana Prozorova. Raducanu came through against Jacqueline Christian. Again, you know, court speed, I think, is so important here. Raducanu would want it quicker, although she coped with it okay against Christian. I think Krejcikova's a big price at plus 150. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if I want to have a play at plus 150.
Well,
I think
Rory, it's all on you, because we're going through a bad time. You're asking me to have an opinion on a Raducanu match who I haven't got right for many, many, many years. I do like the Krejcikova plus 150, I must admit, but would I bet with my record against Raducanu? I certainly wouldn't get involved. I vowed never ever to get involved in a Raducanu match ever again. And however much tempting, Bet Rivers are doing it on purpose to me. They're dangling this carrot of plus 150 for Krejcikova and want me to take it. Well, I'm not going to fall into that trap, Bet Rivers. You can, not for me. So I'm not going to have it. But for me, I'm going to leave that one alone. If you want to get involved in an official player, Krejcikova, I'm happy with that. But I am not getting involved in that match whatsoever.
I think I have to take one for the team here, don't I? I mean, I backed her at the US Open, and she wasn't playing all that well. I mean, she was at times she was sublime, at other times she was ridiculous. There wasn't much in between, and that could be just a lot down to, obviously, she's had so many injuries, and you know she's not really had a good run of tournaments just because of these injuries that she's had. I just suspect she might be kind of back here, and if she is, she's a threat to everyone. And you know, she's a French Open champion. Slow conditions are not a problem for her. She's won Wimbledon, you know, so she goes well in any conditions if she were a racehorse. I think I quite like Krejcikova at plus 150. I'm going to have a point on her.
We've
got one more match actually. Beatriz Haddad Maia against Ella Seidel. Haddad Maia, it's very similar odds here. Identical. Haddad Maia minus 188, Seidel plus 150. So the spread would be 3.5 games and totals 20.5. I'm very loath to back Haddad Maia for anything after last week. I think she's just very, very unpredictable. I think she was a set and 5-love up today and then made a bit of a dog's dinner of finishing it off. I think she won 6-3 in the end in the second set. But she's just not the player she was. I mean, she has played well at a couple of the majors. She looked okay at the US Open. But I just...
A lot of travelling though, isn't it? She's gone from New York, where she's done well, then off to Brazil, then flown from Brazil in a matter of days all the way across over here to Seoul. It's a long flight. She struggled a little bit today. Siedel's had a good run. I mean, I think you have to question yourself if you're betting Haddad Maia at minus 188, given what she's played in the last few weeks. But really, I think we've had enough for our first show. Four picks is perfectly good. There'll be more bets coming along on the Bet Rivers website, more matches to choose from. But I'm glad that we've got this, and it's a good day tomorrow. So it looks like a good day of tennis tomorrow. So thank the Lord for that, because I'm on Betting Weekly Tennis Live, which means we may have something to talk about tomorrow. So that's really good as well. So that's nice.
Exactly. So yes, we've got 4 bets for you from the matches tomorrow, and hopefully we can cash at least a couple of those and get back to winning ways. And obviously we've got Lamens Shnaider. The winner of that will carry our hopes in the outright market. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Nigel. Always a pleasure. I think you've got an ATP show as well, and we've got Champions League.
We've got the Champions League today and tomorrow. We've got Betting Weekly Premier League tomorrow. We've got Betting Weekly Extra Time. We've got Betting Weekly Tennis Live. We've got Steve Wiss's Betting Zoo. We have Fast Break. We have Hard Ball. We have The Edge. We have the Dojo. We have everything. Just to give you a recap, though, just to let you know the 2 bets that I have if you join this show at the beginning. I'm going to go for Lamens Shnaider over 20.5 games as my official play, and my other bet was over 2.5 sets in the match between Siniakova and Kasatkina. So they're my 2 official plays.
Yeah, and my place, Sorana Cirstea to cover the spread, so plus 6.5 games. I think that was minus 110. And Krejcikova on the money line against Emma Raducanu at plus 150. All of those bets 1 point win apiece. So there you have it. Just correct on the Cirstea. Minus 105, the price for her. Cirstea plus 6.5 games against Iga Swiatek at minus 105. That's it from Betting Weekly WTA. Our first match bet show, non-Grand Slam match bet show of the year. And so obviously we've got a few more before the season ends. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. I think we've got an outrights program at the weekend for the China Open, which I think I read that Arina Sabalenka's missing due to injury. So that should make it very, very interesting. So join us again then for some more Betting Weekly WTA.